Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Today we are taking a look at the March releases that came out for Warcradle Studios, and apologies for being very late with this video, as I've had quite a few voice issues during March, so I was unable to make this video until now. It's luckily not the end of the world though, because, well, this always works with a pre-order system, and that means that you can actually get your hands on the things that are being discussed in this video. And during March, it was a bit of a slower month than the other two, the first two. There were 4 releases for Dystopian Wars, and they also released this lovely little tomb scenery that is perfect to use for any Necron forces in 40k, of course. Now, out of the 4 March releases, the big one by far was the arrival of the Italians. The Mars battle fleet was released, and it is a fairly traditional battle fleet as we've seen before for these nations. We get the big Mars battleship, a big old chunker made out of resin, onto which you can glue the, or rather, place the different gun batteries and other weapons from that faction. In fact, I would not recommend you glue those on. I would just either use blue tack to put them on or use magnets, as quite often people do. They are very simple systems to magnetize, and the holes are pre-drilled and everything for 3/8 inch, I think, magnets. So yeah, just use that. Alongside the Mars battleship, we also have the first plastic sets for the Italians, and there is something odd going on with these small escort tokens. These have a small C-like base, but they have not been shown on this picture as well, so that is something to keep into account. Let's first start off with the Mars battleship though. These are the detail shots from them, and for those of you wondering how or why these are very interesting to get within your alliance force, the Italians very much are about toughness. They are the sort of anchor unit that you can place down, around which the French forces with their flying Levant ships can maneuver quite easily. And the Italians achieve this toughness by using ships that have these repair facilities around the back, and so they can all repair each other and really have this sort of bunker style gameplay that they bring to the alliance. And here we have a small little shot from that repair facility. That's no joke. That means this ship, I think, rolls 5 or 6 dice, and the rules allow you to apply those dice not just to the ship being repaired during the repair phase, but to any vessel within 4 inch around it. And if you're lucky enough to get an exploding roll, an exploding hit, which is the equivalent of a lucky 6 in this game, then you can repair a full damage point from either this model or a friendly model within 4 inch. And seeing how this is a toughness 8 an armor 8 battleship, that really is a tough old nut to crack if it starts repairing quite a few points from itself. The Italian plastics are also quite new, so it's worthwhile to go over what they can make. And the first build variant of the Mass 2 cruisers is the Gladius Class Cruiser. That is your typical brawler in the center. The thing that defines them is the fact that they have this ablative armor on the flank. They also are a ship that has a 2 heavy gun turrets, one mounted in the front, one in the aft, which means it very much has a side-firing profile. Now that meshes very, very well with the ablative flank armor that they have in the sights. They do have forward-facing torpedoes that you can fire, but I don't consider that to be their main attack. Ideally, you'll get these ships in their sort of anvil situation, taking a turn rather quickly and pointing their flank, their reinforced flank, to the side of the enemy and just pounding away with their gun batteries. So that is what these guys are very good at. I believe they also have a sharpshooter rule that allows you to reduce the citadel of the initial target by -2. So these guys are going to try to come out on top in a firefight using those 2 rules. The next one we're taking a look at is the biggest version you can make out of the Mass 2 cruisers, which is the Spartan Cruiser. This one is the one that has an additional small gun battery in the front, but otherwise is very similar to the Gladius. Their rules, though, do have something interesting. They lose the sharpshooter rule, but they do gain the focused gunnery rule, making sure that you can really get some really big results from those gun batteries when you're shooting at closing range with these guys. They also have heavy broadsides along with them, and those are the type of broadsides that can shoot at medium range. And an alliance thing is that you can actually shoot all of your guns together regardless of the weapon qualities, so you get some really ridiculously large batteries and gun attack action dice pools with focused gunnery with these guys, allowing you to reroll blank and actually piling on the broadsides as well. So everything that was said for the Gladius is double so for the Spartan class cruiser. You're really doubling down, but you're losing that ability to reduce the citadel. A final thing that they also have that I didn't mention with the previous one is that you can still upgrade them to have mine launchers as well. So these Italians, if you're doing the whole anvil sort of gameplay, can do a lot of board denial against your enemy by placing lots and lots and lots of mines as well. Speaking of mines though, you can also build a smaller version of the cruisers, which is the Pilum class cruiser, and the main thing that these guys have is that they are mine sweepers. In this variant you also sort of lose the necessity to have a side firing profile, because there's no real reason to turn your aft towards the enemy as well, but that doesn't gel quite as nicely with the ablative flank armor, something that this ship also has. This one is more of a fast advancer to try and sweep opposing mines away, so if you're looking for that in your force, the Pilum would be the ship for you. And then the last option you can build, if speed is more your thing, you can opt for the Auxilia class. That goes for the small gun battery and large gun battery in the front. And this one has a few rules that brings it up the board quite a bit faster. It's got both Vanguard and Linear Dash. Vanguard allowing it to be deployed 5 inches in any direction really, but ideally forward before the game has even started. And with Linear Dash you can get up to 2 extra speed during the movement step if it doesn't make any turns. If you want to field this one and get the most out of it, if you're a beginning player, this is an ideal unit to put on the most extreme flank of your setup. Why? Because it can still advance very, very rapidly down the board, and when it does, it will most likely be exposing its flank to the enemy, so you can still fire those 2 gun batteries in the front to your heart's content. Into the front it can fire whatever torpedoes it has in front of it, and yeah, the most of the incoming firepower will still be coming against that exposed flank. So yeah, get these, get something that moves fast across the board, but I advise against putting this thing right down the center of your battle line, because I don't think you'll be using all of the rules it has at its disposal to its max. For Mass 1, the Italians get the Cestus class frigate, and this is also a quite interesting one. You have to remember that small gun batteries were actually buffed significantly in the last round of Orbats, allowing them to shoot 2 dice in support most of the time and 3 in their ideal range. So a squadron of like 6 Cestus frigates can actually put down quite a decent amount of firepower now, and on top of that they also benefit from focused gunnery, making those action dice pools even bigger. If you're getting a full squadron of these guys, they're only 30 points each, they will set you back 180 points, and still they'll be throwing out 20 dice with re-rolling blanks, 22 with focused gunnery, so that's nothing to sneeze at. That's a very decent amount of output. And on top of that, every one of these little Cestus class frigates are throwing out flag barrage too. So expect to throw 12 dice at incoming SRS on top of the firepower it already has, and I don't think you can go very wrong for something that is only 180 points. The major downside to them right now though is that they only have 2 hull points, which is on the lower end of the scale for frigates, so they can really protect your fleet quite well, but don't expect them to take a lot of punishment. That's not really their forte. And then a final shot of the new Alliance escort, this time it is shown with its base, its sea base that comes along with it. Cute little thing, matches both the Italians and the French. I actually think it looks slightly more French than it does Italian, but it for sure doesn't look wrong within the Mars fleet. And so yeah, if you're looking for some escorts for your main battleship, if you're an Alliance players, this is the box you will find them in. Besides the Italians, March also sees the release for these guys, for the Imperium. So Imperium players rejoice, you now have a more readily available access to the Doom Balloons, because this battle fleet set has come out as well for the Imperium. Very handy for those of you eyeing the Iron Skies battle fleet, which is one where you're just fielding nothing but these Zeppelins class flagships, and yeah, this is probably the most cost efficient way to build that up. You will have a monstrous amount of smaller Zeppelins when you do, but you know, nothing wrong with that. An entire fleet made out of Zeppelins is something that I think we can all agree looks pretty damn cool. Next up, we have a box that I ended up looking for a long time on the Wayland website, because this is actually a box that is not classed as Union, not classed as Alliance, but one that is multi-faction. Both of these factions can use these, and these are the War Veteran sprues that we saw the month prior with the Columbia Battle Fleet box, I believe it was. And if you want to expand on your cruisers, or just want more Springfield Corvettes, that was the word I'm looking for, more Springfield Corvettes to protect your sometimes rather fragile Alliance ships, yeah, then you can find more of them in this box. It's also a great way to just get your hands on some more of these auto gyro tokens that they have here, because I've been thinking about, if you've got an Enterprise as the big ship, how about, you know, putting a few things on the deck to sort of spruce them up a bit, and I think having a few more of those auto gyro tokens definitely can't hurt. And finally, seeing plastic sprues released on their own definitely was a bit of a theme during this month, because the aerial units for the Crown are also now available separately. So if you've been thinking of making a full aerial force with the Avalon that was released the month prior, you can now do so and go for a full rotor force. I've been doing a bit of calculating with them, and it seems that the perfect rotor force would be 1 Avalon, 6 Prydanes, and then 6 Saxons, along with 3 or 4, I believe it was, of these Teen Angels to go along with them. And yeah, you can now finally achieve this without having to spend your money on a bunch of resin as well. And then finally, the last release of the month is this new MDF kit that they released, which is yeah, very Necron-y looking, and yeah, that's no surprise. In the meanwhile, we got news that Warhammer 40k was getting its 10th edition, finally, with some free rules to go along with it, just like Warcradle has been doing for a long time, which personally, I think books are a thing of the past, but that's neither here nor there. The great thing that they did do, though, is create some lovely wall sections out of MDF that you can put your troops on. So you get some really chunky MDF pieces that are great for blocking line of sight in this game, but also some other smaller scatter terrain pieces and tombs and everything. So yeah, no doubt these can easily spruce up your battlefield. And for those of you unfamiliar with how these MDF kits work, these aren't painted, this is just how they are provided. They're cleverly cut out of many different primer colored foam boards, so this is pretty much what you see when you glue everything together. So if you're yeah, not feeling like having to paint your whole MDF kit set, which can take a long time, let's be honest about that, why not consider these? They're pretty much pre-painted, and all you have to do is glue them together and you're good to go. So yeah, those were the releases for this month, for the month of March. Again, sorry for the delay, but if you still liked the video and thought it was useful, make sure to give us a thumbs up and follow the channel for future updates. I will very quickly be uploading a video about the April pre-orders that are coming up as well, so if you're interested in that, make sure to keep an eye on the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!